Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Please join us over at rivianstories.com for all the latest Rivian news. Maybe pick up yourself a t-shirt while you're there. Thanks. Jimmy, you're looking mighty fine today, coming from the Rivian RJ and Marquez style, which is cool, which is going to be probably our second or third topic. If you're catching on YouTube, stick around. We're going to talk about some top takeaways from a great interview between those two guys. But I want to start off with a 1 year later post that Jimmy posted on the RS community. It's officially been a year that you've owned your R1T. And so you had this great post. I realize you got your screen to the right, so I might have to tee you up a little bit on these points.
Pretty
but we'll
please.
do that. Was it nostalgic? Did you cry when you wrote this? Was it... did you have music going?
No music. Didn't cry.
Yeah.
Definitely had to go through the mind palace of memories because there was so much that Nikki and I did with the truck in our first year. 26,600 and something miles. I don't remember off the top of my head now. Like I said, my screen's over here, guys.
26,652.
Yeah, there you go. 26,652 miles, 16 states. I don't even...
5,500 miles was the longest road trip.
Yeah, there you go.
17 camping trips.
Yep.
Yeah. And
just
I love how you did like the favorite campground, worst campground, furthest from home, favorite dispersed camping. And if you guys are just listening to this and wondering, like, you've posted about most of these on the RS community, like doing write-ups with multiple pictures. So you can definitely come on over here and search those out and see great stories and pictures, including impromptu meetups with people, camping with other RS members, everything in between.
Oh, yeah. I mean, between the 5,500-mile road trip, which obviously had us seeing both of you along the way, doing the Texas Hill Country trip with Skyler, doing Moab, Fins and Things in Utah, then meeting up with some RS guys and Rivian Dad and some of the other crew in Colorado doing that trip and doing, or that off-road section that we did out of Nederland down into Boulder. Man, there's just so many. And what's funny is I was actually thinking about it today on the drive home. Like, I got stuck in the truck once out in Osceola that I didn't even put that in the article, or with pictures of me buried in mud. Again, so many experiences, so many things that we did that it really took a long time to write that out. And I probably had, like, honestly, 10 to 15 edits of that post as I was going back to it and doing more drafts and adding to it. And just because there were so many, again, memories that Nikki and I have been able to make with this truck in the first year, it took a long time to get that all onto the site and share that with everybody. 7 service visits, most were
14
mobile.
14 OT updates and But before I go on to those, I wanted to say something about those 17 trips, which we don't have to go into it a ton. This is a short answer, but over a year ago, so before you took delivery, 18 months ago, even 2 years ago, the three of us were talking and describing the Rivian vehicles, the R1s, as aspirational vehicles, meaning vehicles that would also then inspire you to get out and do adventure. I mean, what was your record before this vehicle for camping trips in a year? So it's 17 since you've got it.
Right.
What was it before?
Geez, one time in 17 years.
There you go.
Wow. Honestly, we only camped one time since we moved to Jacksonville. And, honestly.
So one time in 17 years to 17 times in 1 year, which is cool. And honestly, just that's probably the best testimonial that we could ever give Rivian, is that it truly was successful in being an aspirational vehicle for you and Nikki, for sure. So with that then going on, OTA updates, and you have your favorite update being camp
Yep.
mode, which
Camp
is
mode.
fitting for what we're talking about here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Favorite update, camp mode. Least favorite update, also camp mode. I the time limit on the power outlets has been probably the biggest bummer of an OTA. Just because when we do go camping, we bring two 110/12 volt coolers, and most of our camping trips are all over 24 hours. So in order to make sure that our food and drinks is staying refrigerated, you have to be vigilant or set a reminder in order to remember to either turn them off and then turn them back on, or once they do turn off, remember to turn them back on. So that's probably been the biggest bummer update as well, has been, again, both of them being camp mode, the best and the worst.
As it relates to the power outlet timer, it's a good idea. I appreciate where they're coming from. You know, they actually got thrashed by a YouTuber that said that his truck wouldn't turn off, and it turns out that it was because he left those power outlets on. So I understand the need for that timer. I wish that there was a setting that either made it unlimited, like keep them on, even if that's not the default setting, or alternatively, hey, I'd like to keep them on for an amount of time that I punch in. So, like if you're doing a 3-day camping trip, punch in 72 hours and then it stays on. But the 24-hour limit, Jimmy, I agree. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is I love how you included the OTA section with 14 OTAs that you've received since owning the truck. And how did you even track that, count that? Like, see, I know that I get about one a month, but...
Yeah, so I ended up going, I had a good idea of what they were or how many there were, just because I'm a dork like that when it comes to numbers. But just to be on the safe side and get an exact count, I did go to, I think it's either riviantracker.io or one of the sites that somebody has created that is posting the OTAs with their release notes. Went back there and then went as far back as to when we took delivery on April 4th, and then counted back from there. Yeah, it was honestly shocking how many there were, because there were a few, and honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, there may be one or two that I didn't get because there were, or that I counted extra, because there was probably one or two iterations of OTAs that I didn't get because they weren't applicable to me. But since we took delivery, there have been 14 over-there updates that have, come to us. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Skylar, off the top of your head, and this isn't to put you on the spot, I'll kind of do it to myself too. We've had our R1s for less time, but probably going on 8 months now, 7 or 8 or so. Does a certain OTA strike you as your favorite? I mean, you don't have to have the number, but just the feature or the general one. Can you remember one? I know mine, but I won't say it because it might ruin yours.
Yeah, well, my favorite one, the most entertaining one, was the Halloween update, where we learned that the access lighting is RGB, that the lock and unlock sounds are customizable, all of those things. The zombies in the driver display, I mean, that was just so incredibly cool. My favorite practical feature that has rolled out is the increase in the window speed, because those windows were so freaking slow before, and now they're still a little slow, but much better.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, Skylar. The most notable or memorable to me is absolutely the Halloween update because of all the things that you just said. To me, one of my favorite updates is very similar to yours, Skylar, but I remember using this all the time, which was the window venting. And I used that again today because it's warm here in Illinois, like 80. And I saw that my cabin was super hot, and I just vented the windows and took care of it. I had my camera inside, so I was like starting to worry about it. And just having that on the app was so much easier than having to go out there. 14 updates in a year is a big kudos and an attaboy, attagirl to Team Rivian for pumping those out. And none of them were really nothing burgers. There were some that were a quicker meal than others, but some of them were pretty hefty, you know.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. Along those lines, 10 off-road trips and 9 Rivian events meetups we kind of covered a little bit. But along the lines of OTAs would be service visits. There were 7. And you outlined the biggest issues, which I think is helpful. So wind noise you had corrected or looked at twice. Passenger seats replaced 2. So you had to do that twice, right?
Yep,
And then
that was twice,
the drivetrain clunk and the cracked heater box were the biggest issues. And that's pretty indicative of the R1T ownership experience in general, right?
Yeah. I think the wind noise we're starting to see less and less of that. The cracked heater box, that has been kind of hit or miss across the R1 line. I don't think, at least I'm not familiar with any R1Ss that are having that issue. The passenger seat, I had a lot of questions on that across Instagram and I believe even within RS, but the passenger seat issue wasn't the airbag or anything like that. It was actually the seat sensor was not registering anybody, or it was actually, let me back up, it was registering somebody when there wasn't anybody in the seat. So the truck would never go to sleep. So after a second seat, that was finally fixed. Then drivetrain clunk, we had that done literally the day before the upper control arm recall happened, and that came back-ish about a month or 2 months later, and I haven't had that readdressed yet because I was hoping there'd be a more permanent fix once I have that addressed again. And then thankfully the heater box they had to take the whole dash apart. They did have to do that one at the service center. But it wasn't a terrible, I think they might have had it for 6 or 7 days, but I did have a loaner, which has been nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But those were probably my 4 big things that were the most, I don't know, cumbersome. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but the biggest issues that I had, and they weren't honestly terrible issues at all either.
Yeah.
Comparative to what could have gone wrong.
Mm-hmm. Skylar, on that topic, where are your clicks at? I know that you got a different kind of correction or fix to address some of those clicks. Have they come back yet?
No. So I got the hopeful long-term fix on the front wheels. Now, I do have a similar noise coming from the driver's side rear, and actually I've had a ticket in on that for a little while, but I'm going to be taking it in this week. I'm not sure if it is a similar or related issue or something else, but we shall see.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Sure that the audience out there listening and watching and just kind of our general R1T audience will definitely mention the tonneau cover. Jamie, where are you at with that? And I mean, did yours ever break?
Never broke. I have, in the year of ownership, I think I've actually been diligent enough to clean it out and put a dry film lube in there one time, but I do cross my fingers and my toes every time I open it or close it, and I do assist it every time I open and close it. Whether I push down on certain panels or when I'm closing it or when I'm opening it, I kind of pull it along, just so that I don't have any issues. And so far so good. Yeah, I mean, and I did, and I don't know if this made a difference at all, but when I had the truck ceramic coated back in April of last year, my installer there at Firehouse Auto Spa ceramic coated the tonneau cover, ceramic coated the slats. So I don't know. I mean, I know that's just one part of the whole mechanism, but if that's helping me out, I'll take it.
Interesting. All right, 3 tire rotations. 6 people that aren't family have driven your R1T. 2 total recalls, which were both probably fixed in 45 seconds combined.
Correct.
And then an overall 10 out of 10 would recommend for sure.
Yep.
And then a good little recap with some names that are worth mentioning just on the show. Nikki and I have had a blast during our first year of ownership and look forward to years 2 and beyond. I'm so thankful for Rivian, Matt, Orlando Delivery Manager, Rashid, Orlando Service Manager, Aaron, Field Specialist, remaining Orlando Service Delivery personnel, Tony from the emails, CEC staff, Kyle and Sky Odie for being great friends, and the rest of the RS community for helping create a great community here.
Yep.
The Florida Rivian Club folks for coming out to all the events, and a shout out to the Riviots here in Jax. That whole crew has been a ton of fun, and we'll look forward to when we all have our R1s and we can meet up. Last but definitely not least, Sarah, best guide ever. So good little tribute to 1 year, Jimmy. Well done for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what else I could say without starting to get emotional. It really has been too much fun. Yeah.
All right, that's all for this one. We have more coming, so please subscribe. In the meantime, we hang out at rivianstories.com. Click on shop, find yourself a t-shirt. Thanks so much for your support.